Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening, this afternoon, or this morning, wherever you are in the world. We had pretty far reach in terms of interest for this program, as we always do, being the singular doctoral program for regulatory. So I want to welcome you here with us, and this is being recorded for those of you who are starting to join us now. We are going to be sending out the recording as well as the slides for you to be able to review at your leisure. Feel free, please, we encourage you to utilize the question and answer option in Zoom, and we will answer any kinds of questions that you have about the program, about the rigor of the, whatever you kind of want in terms of perspective. We have a couple of alumni of the program here as panelists as well that are faculty. So maybe that's in your future too. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay. So this very brief agenda, you're gonna meet the faculty first, and then we're gonna talk about the RegSci website, a little bit about the program, including the coursework, which I know I get lots of questions about the coursework. What are quals, those qualifying exams that tend to strike horror and terror in people's hearts and minds? And we'll get a little bit to that as well. What the focus group is about, that dreaded dissertation. Oh, but you can do it, I promise. And this is the team that is going to be helping you along the way. And I'll go over the admissions requirements, including the deadlines. There are a couple of phases. There's phase 1 and phase 2, and to give you an idea about the decision timeline also. Okay, Dr. Pacifici, I'm going to pass off to you to introduce yourself, and then we'll have each of the faculty introduce themselves also.
Thank you so much, Kristen. So my name is Andrew Pacifici. I am the chair and the associate professor of our Department of Regulatory and Quality Sciences. I'm also part of the International Center for Regulatory Science. I come here from industry, as most of our faculty do. I graduated from USC, so I'm part of the USC Trojan family. I did my PharmD at USC. I also did my PhD at USC. And then I did something quite different, which is from my peers. I neither practiced pharmacy or continued on with my basic research. I went and worked in industry. And I was so surprised at the wonderful opportunities that there are in industry, enjoyed my time there. And so you'll hear from Dr. Richmond. When I heard that Dr. Richmond started this new program, a very innovative, one of the first program in regulatory science, of course, it was very enticing for me to come back, because no one ever taught me that there was a career path in industry, and the idea of training the next generation of regulatory scientists was really attractive. So I've been back since, working with Dr. Richmond and our wonderful faculty and staff for a while, first as an adjunct faculty, and then as a full-time faculty, and most recently as a chair of this department that we all love and care about so much. And so I'm just really delighted to be here tonight to share our thoughts and entertain your questions. So I'm going to, I guess we'll just go from left to right, the way we read English, and turn it over to my co-conspirator, Dr. Nancy Smirkanich. Nancy, take it away.
Thank you, Anju. I'm looking at that picture of myself and saying that's definitely pre-COVID. My hair is no longer that color, but apparently I still like to wear scarves because I have one on now. So welcome, everybody. As Kristen mentioned, I'm actually a graduate of the program. I got my doctorate and my master's at USC when I was very late in my career. I was in my late 50s when I joined the program, and I'd been in industry for decades, big pharma, small pharma, service provider, wore many different hats, independent consultant. Met Dr. Richmond at a conference where I think she heard me speak, and was kind of recruited on to be a lecturer, and came to a point in my life where I needed to make a career decision, and with Frances's gentle guidance and slight nudging, I picked up my life from the Philadelphia area, moved here 8 years ago, actually 8 years ago this month, and proceeded to finish my degrees and get my faculty position. I've been a faculty member for about 5 years now, and much like Dr. Pacifici, I see this as training the next generation of regulatory professionals, because it's a rapidly changing field, and we certainly need talented people out there doing this work. So that's me.
Oh, you're on mute. Did you want to?
No, I'm not on mute, but
to-
I wasn't sure.
Kristen.
Susan wasn't able to be, Susan Bain wasn't able to be with us, I think, until later. So I'm not sure if folks want to come back, or if Anju, you want to handle.
Yeah, so yes, so Dr. Bain is on another Zoom call. You know, during this pandemic, we have overlapping Zoom calls, so we become overcommitted. So she's going to finish hosting her webinar, and then we'll be hopping over to this room, but we can go ahead and move on to our other faculty member, who is Dr. Terry Church. Terry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Terry Church. So I'm kind of the oddball in the group. I got my start in anthropology, thinking that I would be changing the world and looking at all kinds of different social experiments to really hone in on culture and values that we use to create lived-in spaces. I'm so glad I didn't go that route, to be honest, and found my way back to a more meaningful field, and something that has really spurred me on through many years now. I got my start at GSK and worked there roughly 5 years before I realized that being in a big company like that just wasn't for me. And I found my true passion, which is working in investigator-initiated trials in the academic setting. So I have a lot of experience working in both clinical trials management at the academic centers, and also in program building in academic centers. This program was unique. I always feel like I'm in the orbit of my other faculty members, and have been for some time. I was familiar with the work that they were doing, but with Dr. Smirkanich, I felt like I was following her around everywhere she went. We worked in some of the same places in Philadelphia. We were in the same doctoral cohort, and now we tend to teach together. So it's just been us orbiting around each other for some time now. But I want to thank you all for joining us this evening, and hopefully we can answer the questions that you have. I think one of the most interesting aspects of regulatory is that it is so diverse and broad, and will be such a rich experience going forward, no matter what your career path is. And that's me.
All right. So Dr. Benson Ko, he is also a member of our faculty, and he is actually hosting another Zoom session, and that is our what we call International Summer Fest program. Every summer we host students from foreign countries to come here for an immersion program. But this year, because of the pandemic, we can't have them physically here, but they are participating in this virtual international symposium. And over 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks, because 4 weeks of Zoom session seems just too much, but 2 weeks, and we have 22 institutions participating, 180 people. So I'm actually going to, after today's webinar, I'll be hopping over to join Dr. Ko, but that is the reason why he's not here. But hopefully you get to meet him and converse with him in the future. But last but not least, in this list, we have Dr. Francis Richmond, who I mentioned is the founder of our program, and is really the main reason why we all have found our way onto this picture. So, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Francis.
Thank you. Just means I'm old. So I came to California to live from Canada in 1999 with an idea that we needed to find a linkage between our very smart science students and the careers that were begging for good people. And one of those careers was obviously regulatory science. And really lucky that School of Pharmacy was supportive for us during the first 10 years to try to figure out how to train and, practitioners, usually practitioners at the, 0 to 5 year span. But we had many students in that class who were well beyond that 2 to 5 year area. In fact, they were very experienced. One of our frustrations was that some of them needed more, that the master's level program was good, but they needed new skills that would bring them to leadership positions. And really, there was almost nothing that they could do. Further, it was very difficult for them to go back and get a doctorate degree, which was often an entry-level requirement. So we decided to, take up the notion of developing a doctoral program. And it has worked. I think that you will be glad to know, for those of you who might ask this question, that we've, 35 or 40 of our students have now graduated. And, there are many others that are doing a really good job. So I feel very happy about that. So now I'm sort of stepping back a little bit from, sort of trying to organize those educational programs and moving over to the International Center to try to sort of broaden perhaps our spectrum there. The doctoral program is heavily oriented toward the international space, deliberately so, unashamedly so, unapologetically so, because the world is very small now, and anybody in a leadership position must understand that. So we have, and the others will talk to you about the kinds of courses we have, but that's a big focus for us. So now that's my job, but I will still be teaching you and working a little bit on dissertations with you perhaps, as will the others. And I really look forward to that opportunity.
Hey, thank you, all of you. So let's see. Oh, there we go. So just kind of briefly, hopefully all of you have had an opportunity to be able to review the regulatory website, which is an offshoot of the foundational pharmacy website for the USC School of Pharmacy. We have our own, we're very proud of that. Included on the site are the admissions information, the curriculum and degree requirements, as well as, this is really important because it's going to be part of the assignment when you apply. We'll get to that too. It's a little teaser there. The DRSc dissertations, the ones that are completed and published, the ones that have been defended, as well as also important, the student alumni profiles. So if you're wondering if you're going to be a good fit for the program, you can see where the other cohorts were and when they entered in terms of their career paths and the amount of time that they have in industry or in their particular field. So regulatory.usc.edu. Highly recommend that you go to check that out. Okay. Dr. Pacifici.
Thank you. So I'm going to walk us through a few of the slides here, but I would like to invite the rest of the panel here, rest staff, as well as faculty. In fact, the one person we have not introduced, who I would like to introduce, is Tony Rodriguez, before we move on. So Tony, why don't you say a little something about who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, I work in conjunction with Kristen. We work together when it comes to the admissions process and pulling together all of the applications. So when you apply to a program, you're pulling together all of your application materials and putting them together for the committee to review. At such point, when you are accepted into the program, you receive a lot of emails from me. Pretty much.
I think Tony, there's a little bit of a disturbance. I don't know whether it's just me.
Oh.
Your audio.
My fan? Can you hear me all right now?
Oh, it's
Is
better,
that it?
yeah.
I'm sorry, that was my fan blaring in my face. So, like I said, I work with Kristen Feldhausen, and we work together and pulling together all of the applications, and we prepare them for the committee review. And so at some point, you may be receiving some communication from me as well.
So yes, so Tony is integral to the admissions application processing. And so if you do get into the admissions process, emails that you get from Tony should be addressed in a timely manner. So what makes our program unique? Well, it's because we are unique. So I guess the definition of being unique is that we are the only one. The suffix of DRSc is quite unique, and it is something that our program has founded. So there are many doctoral programs around the world, but this is the only doctoral program in regulatory science. So it's kind of cool about that so far. And it is really designed to cultivate research and leadership, as Dr. Richmond mentioned. In the industry, especially in the regulatory arena, the types of the activities you undertake when you are in the field from 0 to 5, 7 years or more, is different from those that you undertake when you're there over 10, 15, 20 years. And so the types of leadership skills that you need, is you can typically, as Nancy and others have found, is that you do what's called on-the-job training, and which is kind of narrow and kind of oriented to what you need to do today and tomorrow. So our DRSc program, with the types of courses and types of experiences that you gain, you gain a more holistic approach to leadership, like how to manage human resource and lead teams, as well as research methodology and international regulatory strategies, including traveling to Asia, traveling to Europe and other places. And the idea of research, so people often are puzzled when we say, oh yeah, we're in the regulatory science field, because regulatory science is a new discipline, a new academic discipline. In fact, we have a department of regulatory and quality sciences, but many of the other programs really do not have an academic department. And so the idea of having an academic or establishing an academic discipline is something kind of somewhat foreign to the field of regulatory. Many of the other programs are called regulatory affairs, or, but the regulatory science as a discipline, really to develop and establish such a discipline, we need a body of innovative, original research. And that's where our doctoral students come in. Nancy, Terry, and Susan, all through their doctoral program, had to conduct research and disseminate their findings from their research in regulatory science topics. Also, being a leader means teaching and sharing your experience and your knowledge with the next generation. So who better than those who are seasoned in this field to come into our classrooms and teach the next generation? Because of the fact that it is not an established discipline, we really need the practitioners who are seasoned in the field to come and share with the students what are the skill sets that are needed, and what is it really like out there. So our doctoral cohorts, we accept students every 2 years. So each cohort is quite diverse, with varying expertise in different fields. Some are in CMC quality, some are in regulatory strategy, some are in clinical research, some are in regulatory affairs, some are in medical device sector, some are in biologics, some in food or drugs, but they are all coming in really wanting to advance in their strategic management and policy development. So, and most of our students that we consider are really, so we don't consider any candidates straight out of undergrad like PhD programs do. We, in our program, only consider those who are currently practicing in the profession, who are often in more senior positions. The reason why we limit our candidates to that pool is because in order to conduct an innovative research in regulatory science, that is to research in the area of regulatory policy, best practices, etc., you really have to have been in the field for a while. And we are focused on the advancement of profession. So idea is that they often, because they're in the senior position, are already kind of thinking strategically, but we would like them to then, be positioned to go even further up, think not only more strategically, but also globally as well, to position them to become global leaders in this field. Next,
If I may, I will tell you that is probably the number one question I get is, do I really need to have experience in order to come into the program? So thank you for addressing that. And, part of the coursework talking about it being global is presenting on an international stage, which we'll get to also, but still another teaser.
Are you going to advance I don't think I can advance. Who's advancing the slides? There we go. So as we mentioned, and as our faculty have attested, they have more than 20 years of industry experience, and some are still involved in industry in one way or another. We have, and Dr. Kuo is not here right now, we have our own regulatory consulting center, and we have industry projects. So we are still interacting pretty closely with industry in one form or another. All of you, most of you are already working in the industry, so you understand that this is a fluid environment. And so, every time a new guidance document is published by the FDA or a new law is passed or new regulation is written, things change. And so it's very important, while we have industry experts amongst us, it's important to bring in the guest speakers who are currently practicing from the industry. So in most, if not all of our courses, we have guest speakers from industry who are the subject matter experts. So, and that's really important. Our classrooms are very diverse and mixed in that we do have within our courses in our classrooms, we often have some, even fresh undergrads or master's students and doctoral students. In addition, we have working professionals. So it's an interesting mix of the classroom population. So it becomes really interesting in that we often see like classmates hiring another classmate, because they work in a group project and they're really impressed by that person's performance. So, and then we have speakers from industry. So it's a really interesting classroom environment. And although we have been holding classes virtually through the pandemic, we are all, we carried on, and we have been going full stream through the pandemic, but we can't wait to be back in classroom in person in the fall. So our first doctoral inaugural cohort was in 2008. So we celebrated right before the pandemic, actually, we celebrated our 10th anniversary. So it is, as far as doctoral programs go, it's still pretty young. Our courses are held on weekends. And as I mentioned, we have working professionals, so it makes sense for our courses to be held on weekends. So those of you who are working full-time, you can still continue to take courses without disrupting your professional life. And
Dr. Pacifici, we have a question about somebody had written, I have reviewed most of the recent and current student alumni profiles. What typically is considered a senior position?
right, so it's we don't have a hard and fast rule about it. Some of it is just because different companies have different titles. And so we could not just say, oh, they have to be at least a director. We've had, senior managers, we've had senior directors, we've had VPs. So I guess, by and large, if somebody's an associate or a specialist, we will consider that probably maybe maybe a little too early in the professional development. But we really have to, we consider each of the application to understand what kind of activities the applicant has been embarking on, and how long they have been in the field, and what, through the personal statement, we can also glean the insight and the thought process of the person, to go beyond kind of task focused to more thoughtful about some of the gaps in knowledge that they're interested in addressing in their thesis research. So that's kind of, we look at the applicants more holistically. I don't know if any of the other faculty members would like to add to that.
So I always think of it as having initiative. So taking initiative beyond what your normal role is. Oftentimes leadership is an aspect of that, and how you lead and how many people you're leading. And the fact that the person could teach, and notice that I said could, not can. Could means that they have a level of knowledge that makes them more accessible to a topic than someone who can, because anyone can Google a topic and talk about it. But people who could teach are the ones that have real experience, I think. That's how I think of it in my mind.
Can I just say one word? And sometimes what we do when we're looking at the cohort, we have a certain number of places in the cohort, and we want every student, if possible, to bring something to that cohort so that the cohort is interesting and balanced and you can learn from each other. So we are very sensitive to how that cohort will fit together, how their interests might fit together, what you might learn from your fellow students.
So we have something in the chat saying that I'm a supervisor in manufacturing in aseptic filling, looks like, a master's degree in regulatory science from Johns Hopkins University. I'm assuming that the question is this the kind of experience that you're looking for in terms of candidate? Yes, thank you.
Again, it depends on the kind of the length of your experience, and also, we are looking to see the thought process of the applicants. The master's program is a little bit more straightforward. Our master's program is 36 units, and you have a number of courses. You enroll in the courses, you listen to all the lectures, you participate, you take the exams, you write the reports. So that takes one set of skill set. But the doctoral program requires all of that and then more. And it's that and then more part we find requires kind of, critical thinking, perseverance, and writing skills. So those are kind of, all the things that we're looking for. So again, we have to look at the entire application very carefully, and it's a team effort. We have, the admissions committee, all the members of the admissions committee review the application. So I hope that answers your question. So our courses are held on weekends, but as you see in the next slides, not every weekend. So it's not like you're signing up to give up every weekend of the rest of your, few years. Ability to customize either a full-time or part-time schedule. Most of our doctoral students are part-time students just because they have a full-time job. But we are flexible in terms of how quickly you progress through our program. And because of the fact that we are looking for applicants who are working in the profession, and we know the industry is spread out across the country, you have the ability to complete the courses online or as a distance student. So those students who live within driving distance of our university should be coming on site to complete the courses in person. Those who live outside this driving range can complete the courses online. However, in the doctorate program, we have several course-related activities that require all the students to come together. Sometimes they come together to Los Angeles. Sometimes they go travel to Asia or Europe as part of international regulatory strategy courses. Let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, so this is an example of what those weekend courses look like. So as I mentioned, you don't have to take courses every weekend. So for example, for 511 course, the first on this list, you can see the courses spread across 5 dates, which are held on weekends. And so, those are our full day courses. So it's 8 hours per day times 5. So you're talking about 40 hours. So instead of having them spread across every week across 16 weeks, we have them delivered like an executive style, full day courses across 5 or 6 days. And you can see the examples of some of the course titles, the weight in terms of the units that they represent, and kind of dates that we're looking at, how they are spread across the entire semester. And this is, as I mentioned, you can be on campus and participate in person or participate as a distance student. So the distance student is different from an online course. You, as a distance student, you will participate as part of the classroom, in that it's not Zoom like this, but rather you get to see the classroom on the video. So you can see the students asking questions, the instructor walking around. You can, if you would like, you can zoom in and participate in real time through live streaming option, or if the time zone is such that you cannot participate in real time, you can participate asynchronously, because all of our courses are streamed live and recorded for future viewing. So this is what the doctoral program coursework looks like. It is comprised of 60 units of coursework that includes some foundational courses, some advanced regulatory courses. So you can see on the right side the list of examples of foundational courses, examples of advanced regulatory courses, product life cycle strategy, and the global regulatory strategy and policy. So the global regulatory strategy and policy, you can see, in addition to global regulation of medical products, the MPTX 519, we have 2 other courses, the 604 and 608 courses, one for regulatory strategy in Asia, one for regulatory strategy in Europe and the Americas. So those are traveling courses. And so we want to make this very clear that although you have the option of participating as a distance student, it is somewhat mandatory for our students to participate in these cohort traveling courses. And this actually, the Asia trip course and the European trip course are two of the most highly valued courses. If you ever ask, and I hope you do, have a chance to speak to our formal students, they have such fond memories of not only bonding with their cohorts, but also visiting regulatory agencies, academic institutions, industry in foreign regions as doctoral students. So
maybe Dr. Smirkanish can talk a little bit about her European trip.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Do you want to try to get through the slides, and then we can come back to that? I'm cognizant of time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Some of the courses are just doctoral students, and some of them are mixed with masters and other students. You can, so just like we had received in the Q&A chat, if you already have a master's degree from other institution, we can go ahead and consider to transfer some of the units, usually up to 30 external coursework within a similar field. But unfortunately, those assessments cannot be made prior to accepting the admission. So because we have to take it one by one and really examine what are transferable. The qualifying exam and dissertation, oh my goodness, I have some students who are, we all have students in various stages in this. So, there are 4 units with regards to qualifying and dissertation phases. So that makes, in addition to the 60 units that was listed in the previous slide, that makes a total of 64 units for degree completion. So we have the 800 courses when the students are getting ready for qualifying exam. So the qualifying exam in our program consists of the chapters 1, 2, and 3, the introduction, the literature review, and the methodology. So essentially what it is your thesis research proposal presented in 3 chapters of your thesis document. And after the student passes the qualifying exam, then they are ready. Usually the most of our doctoral research are designed around some sort of a survey of industry views. So oftentimes they integrate a qualitative research in that sense. So as part of developing the survey to be administered to industry professionals or other such stakeholders, we conduct a focus group. So, and then once the focus group is conducted and the survey is launched and the results come in, then the usually at least 2 semesters with 794A and 794B, which are the course numbers. Those are the 2 semesters usually used to finish writing the results and discussions, and then be ready to defend the dissertation. So, it's an interesting thing because I went through a PhD program, and I would say our doctoral in regulatory science program really provides a nice structure and direction for our students, in that alongside, in parallel of our students getting ready to conduct thesis research, we provide coursework that actually assists in students preparing for their research. So for example, we have not only the research ethics, but managing complex projects, and then the theory methods practice of regulatory research. Essentially, it's the research methodology course, the 607 course. And then, of course, the qualifying and dissertation units that are listed there. Okay. And so usually, as a student gets ready for the qualifying exam, essentially what that means is writing your chapter 1, introduction, chapter 2, literature review, and chapter 3, research methodology. You are actually taking the research methodology course, 607. So, and you work closely with your faculty advisor, who during the first year or so of the program, you will interact with faculty and come to a mutual agreement in terms of selecting a faculty advisor who, along with the staff, will work closely with the student in formulating your research question and writing the first 3 chapters of your thesis. And the qualifying exam is usually conducted in person, except if there is a global pandemic. We usually do it in Zoom, but we only had to do that for one global pandemic. Hopefully that's the last one. So it is, but other than that, we would conduct it in person with your qualifying committee, thesis committee. And then after that, adding the structure to the survey questions, we have we have the license for Qualtrics, which is the tool, the platform used for developing and administering the survey. And the thesis committee, usually we have internal members and we have an external member as well. Sometimes they are from industry or alumni on committee, as well as in focus group. So after you pass the qualifying exam, there is a huge relief, because there's it's pretty intense as you get ready for the qualifying exam, and then congratulations, you passed. But that really means congratulations, welcome to working harder, because that really is a permission to go to the next stage, which is continue working. Now you really have to do the research. And so that then you register for these 2 courses that I mentioned. We have actually dissertation templates. So the document template is really nicely formed. So for our students, you can just go in and start writing, and the style template is already there. So those of you who work in regulatory writing, you know how important templates are. And so the templates provide a consistent look and feel for our thesis. And you will see when you go look at our published thesis documents, how they all, I think, look pretty good. You work with the faculty advisor and have multiple revisions. Yes, it's review, revise, edit and revise, and rewrite, making sure that the citations are done properly. We have different faculty members who are experts in different areas. For example, EndNote, I hate to single you out, Terry, but Terry is the king of EndNote. And so he's wonderful to go to get help with the EndNote for citations, not only in-text citations, but the reference section. So this is how the dissertation is structured. So we talked about chapter 1. We already talked about chapter 1, 2, 3. So after you finish your qualifying exam and you conduct your survey and you obtain all the results, you present it nicely and narrate it fully in chapter 4, and then discuss it in chapter 5. And the discussion section, is kind of where your critical thinking comes to play. And that's where you not only present, and talk about your results, but really talk about what your results indicate in terms of the field that you're studying. So, and each student will be required to produce and defend an independent a novel dissertation as requirement for graduation. That is a must. And if you haven't already done so, please, you can find the dissertations that have been completed. So the ones that are highlighted in red are hyperlinked, and you can actually go and just click on those red ones. The red ones, the ones in red depict the ones that have already been defended and published. So if you click on it, you'll bring up the document that looks like the document on the right-hand side. So that one particular one is by one of our faculty members, Dr. Susan Bain, and her topic was regulatory due diligence, a survey investigation of best practices in the medical products industry. The concept of regulatory due diligence, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that, especially in the days where right now, as it is, not only right now, but has been for many years now, where the M&A activity is so prevalent. So, okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pacifici.
You're welcome. Here, over to you, Kristen.
Okay, so I will go over the admissions information because I know this is the drum roll moment of everything you're dying to know, and on top of all the stuff that you're willingly going to take on if you decide to apply for the program, right? But they can do it. Okay, so when do you apply? The portal is going to open up August 1st. It has to be reconfigured every year for all of the different application processes. So August 1st is going to open. The deadline is February 1st. What I always say is don't wait until the final deadline because you're going to have letters come in late and some other things can happen. So my suggestion is to get it in a little bit earlier if you can. So start collecting everything now. I think that's the best way to start getting all of your ducks in a row. It's an online application, and I have a hyperlink here for you. Again, we're going to be sharing slides, so you can just link right there, or you can Google that if you want to. So questions, you can email the RegSci email account, and somebody will get back to you in terms of assistance if you're having some issues. If it's a portal issue, you can actually get a hold of the WebAdmit portal people, the liaison people, to help you with that. But you can always give us a shot first. And if we can't help you with the application itself, we're happy to send you the information of who to contact. Hey, isn't this a blessing? No more GREs, they're not required. Yay, that's like the biggest gift I can ever give anybody. I can see Dr. McKenna going, yes, yes, yes. Absolutely, I feel the same way. Okay, so what do you need to apply? A 3.0 GPA and on all of your degrees. So what you can do when you're applying, and you can go get your transcripts now, right? Before the application portal even opens. Those are considered unofficial transcripts because you were able to access them and touch them. But you can utilize those as part of your application. Now, when you're ready, when you actually send that button to apply, you're going to get your ID, your USC ID within a couple of days. That's when you want to go order those official transcripts. Go get digital ones, get it done faster. It's one of the great things, thank you, COVID, that we actually got a good experience out of, is grad admissions is finally accepting e-transcripts, which is fantastic because they were a little hesitant to do so before. So again, you can apply with unofficial. Make sure you get the official in because nobody can accept you until those official ones are in and they're verified by Degree Progress. You're going to need not one, not two, but 3 letters of reference. So that can be, somebody that is an employer, a supervisor, somebody who's supporting you, maybe paying the bill if you're lucky, former faculty members, somebody that you know that can speak to your academic ability, to the fact that your dedication and your future career in regulatory, something to help substantiate to the admissions committee when they're reading about you through other people's eyes, why you'd make a really good candidate for the program. Additionally, we're looking for a statement of purpose. How is this going to fit into your master plan in terms of your career goals? And we don't want it to be pages and pages long. This is not your dissertation, nor is it practice for that. It is really an exercise for us to be able to get to know you and what you want to do with this degree. So 450, 500 words, just keep it tight, okay? And then this is the little teaser from before, the critical analysis essay. So that's where those alumni dissertations are coming in. Again, hyperlinked here and elsewhere. This is where you're going to review a topic of your choice. You can choose any of the ones that are hyperlinked, and you're going to be reading through it because this is actually what you're signing up for. So better to see it ahead of time, okay? You're going to identify and explain the argument that the author's making. You're going to provide your own argument and defend or counter about the argument made in the dissertation. You're going to provide 3 to 5 additional references that are not included in the original work, right? These are all your own. And you're going to do it in 800 to 1,000 words. Good luck. No. So we want to make sure that it's, again, not an actual dissertation. We just want you to critically analyze and think about your position on what's been already presented by somebody who's gone through the program. Okay. And if you're an international applicant, this is a university requirement that you're going to have either TOEFL or IELTS scores, and those are the minimums that you have. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to send an email to the RegSci email account. Okay. How'd I do? All right. Okay. So let's talk about the initial decision process. So everybody applies. February 1st is that cutoff date. Hopefully all of your application materials in, all of the letters, all of that, right? That's what the committee is going to look at first, and then make an initial determination. It could be, you know, we think that you'd be a really good applicant in the future. So we're going to give you that in feedback. Or maybe, especially if you're coming from an undergraduate program, again, we're looking for that 10 years of experience, right? Maybe you're not quite there yet, and we say, look, you should apply for the master's degree first. And we can use those units towards the doctoral degree if you end up getting into the program in the future. Not a bad safety net, just saying, okay? So maybe you just don't have enough experience, right? Or any in regulatory. And then, of course, there's the declined admission, and those are kind of the reasons why you don't meet the minimum for the university requirements. You know, if you've got, you know, a 2.95 GPA, we can probably look at that as an option. Again, we look at the entire application. It's just not one thing that kind of checks the box and says, no, you can't do this. But if you've got something like a 1.8 GPA from undergrad, that might be a little hinky to be able to get through. I don't think the grad school would like that much, but let us make that determination for you. You don't have to make that determination necessarily. Again, no experience, the quality of your writing, maybe that could be a consideration. Inadequate references, or somebody, I've seen it from time to time. They maybe got a reference from somebody they probably should have maybe skipped because they didn't necessarily write a nice one, supportive one. So hopefully that will not be the case. And then we've got phase 2 is when we invite you to come and interview. And that's going to be communicated sometime in March. And you're going to be matched with faculty or alumni interviewers, and the schedule will be sent out in March or April. It kind of depends on how we can manage to match somebody near where you are in your specialty areas too. So we're kind of doing a lot of thought process behind the scenes in order to be able to make this happen. And then the interviews will transpire between April and May. You'll get a minimum of 2 interviews. They're going to be in person and they're going to be on campus. So plan for an on-campus, on-site interview. And then the final decisions will be communicated in June. Okay, I invite you again to ask any questions, and I'm going to answer one briefly, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Smirkanich to talk a little bit briefly about her European trip. So the question was asked, are there any scholarships available for this program? And I'm happy to say yes, there are scholarships available. They are competitive, but there's one specific that is to the doctoral students, but any of the regulatory department scholarships you're more than welcome to apply to. They are typically $5,000 a piece, And it's, again, a competitive process, but it's always worth writing an essay in order to try to get $5,000. That's what I think anyway. So Dr. Smirkanich, take it away.
Thanks, Kristen. So every other year in the even years, not the even year that you apply, but the even year after if you've been accepted, we take the doctoral cohort to Europe. The previous fall of an odd number year, with the exception of this year, unfortunately, we do a similar trip to Asia. We typically on the Europe trip visit 2 to 3 countries. We visit health authorities. We do joint symposium with academic institutions. We have fun. Wouldn't be a trip with me without having some fun. Really, in the past, again, that's involved going to the European Medicines Agency, or when they were moving from the UK, we went to the health authority in the Netherlands. We try to have a combination of visits arranged that kind of, again, speak to the interests of the cohort. So if we have a mixture of people who are device first, people versus drugs, we try to either get to a notified body or manufacturing facility for devices, but we really try to tailor that trip. It's different every time, and that's again part of the fun of it. But we are treated very differently because we are not coming in as company people. So some of you might be surprised when we've been to the European Medicines Agency in the past. They put on a whole program for us, including they feed us, which we always like that too. Which is, again, a very enriching experience for our students, because if you've never been to the EMA before, it can be a little intimidating. That's usually a great experience. And again, we vary it every year. Sometimes we also align it with a professional meeting if the timing is right, but that's in the spring of the even numbered years. So I'll be planning a trip for this coming spring.
Thank you, Dr. Smirkanich. And I'll put one last call out for any kinds of questions that you all may have.
Hopefully we got a chance to answer most people's questions.
Okay. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Again, we're going to send out the recording and the slides to you all, and feel free to contact the RegSci account with any questions that you have. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening or rest of your day.